I guess I'll have to sit instead. First, I want to thank everybody who's done at Avengers. Later. Maybe somebody will jump up and be like, oh, that's tonight. Well, my story tonight would be called Front Seat Confidential, and there's two reasons I called it that. The first one I'll get to right now is kind of a reference to AC/DC B-side, and there's only one person here who probably knows that. But the other reason I'll get to a little later on is this story starts back in 2008 on September 20th. I was at the hospital in Canby with my lovely wife Kate, who is here tonight. Just snuck here in the nick of time. Babysitters. And we saw her doctor, Dr. Abar, and we were about to have our first child, Braden. And Dr. Abar, you may not know this, but well, I don't know how you would know this, but Dr. Abar actually delivered my wife when she was born. So she thought it would be cool if the same doctor delivered her first child, which I was like, that is kind of cool, so we'll do that. So we're there on a Saturday. Normally he doesn't work Saturdays, but he came in for us. And he said it could be any time now. But it didn't happen on Saturday, it didn't happen on Sunday. Monday, pretty ordinary day. And as we're going to bed around 11 o'clock, I think we stayed up a little too late because of Elton Brown Good Eats. We can all relate to that, I'm sure, especially the binge watcher. And she says, I think this is it. I think tonight's gonna be the night. I'm like, okay. Or in the morning. Oh, morning would be good. Well, she was right on both accounts, because about 2:30 I'm shaking awake and it's like, honey, it's time. I'm like, okay. So we gathered up our stuff. We had packed already, thankfully, and we loaded up the car and we're on our way to Canby in the middle of the night. And I know sometimes that there would be false alarms, but later it would turn out this was not a false alarm. So we get to Canby at about 4 in the morning. Luckily they have a few people on staff. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll get you checked in, we'll get you laid down, we'll start the process and everything. And I'm sitting there and I'm holding her hand. It gets to be about 7 in the morning. And it's like, all right, well now we're just gonna kind of do the waiting game. You know, you're starting labor, so we'll wait around for that. And she's like, okay. And then I'm like, all right, well if we're just gonna be waiting a while, I'm just gonna... And about 10 o'clock rolls around. My internal clock goes off because it's Price is Right time. This time I wasn't going to work until 11. But the benefit of not working until 11 is you get to watch The Price is Right. This is back when Bob was still on. So I wake up around 10, and nothing much has changed, but she's like, oh, thanks for being with me today. I'm like, no problem. Yeah, what'd I miss? It turned out I didn't miss anything. So she's there, and she wanted to do this the old-fashioned natural way, you know, the no medicine, no drugs, just straight labor, just have a baby in Canby. So I'm like, all right, that's cool. And then we wait. It gets to be about noon, and she's not really hungry, and she's progressing, but slowly. So I head to the commissary, and I get one of these chicken sandwiches. I think it was a chicken sandwich anyway. I shouldn't make fun of it. Actually, they have really good food at the Canby Hospital. If you're ever there for any reason, I don't know why you would be. So I eat, and then it gets to be about 1 o'clock, and she's progressing. It's not quite there yet. I'm like, okay, well, we wait some more.
You slept some more.
I really? Okay. Apparently, this is probably why she wanted me to rehearse it more in front of her. I rehearsed most of it not in front of her. So. Really, I did?
Yep.
Okay. There's your interactivity. So I guess I took another nap. I got to be about 3 o'clock, and then labor was really picking up steam. I mean, really picking up steam. So she had this thing she wanted to do. She wanted to listen to Nora Jones' first album, Come Away With Me. So, and I didn't have a problem with that, although I might have risked putting me to sleep again. I love the album, but it's not exactly, it's not really an album to get you really psyched up for anything. Not that you need to be psyched up to have a baby. Not equipped for that sort of thing. So anyway, we get to play the CD, and her parents arrive, and her friends arrive, and then her grandma arrives. And her grandma Joan, who passed away last year, sweet lady, she had never actually seen a baby be born before, and she didn't want to miss this because we're doing the whole natural childbirth thing. So as it gets closer and they get my wife in the given birth position, Joan finds a folding chair, picks it up, puts it against the wall, like front row vagina. She has got a great view. So I'm like, well, all right, I guess I'm holding the hand and doing the encouragement here and feeding her ice chips, because, again, that's something I guess I didn't know people did when they had a baby. And the CD's been playing now 2 or 3 times, and the Dr. Abar's in there, and he knows, and my wife instructed him, no matter how much I ask, do not give me drugs. No matter how much I ask. Or a C-section, thank you. But at this point, she's starting to think about asking. So, we wait a little while longer, and it gets to be about 5 o'clock, and she's starting to push. And she takes a break from she takes a little break from pushing during labor, and she says, "I should warn you that sometimes when women are going to give birth, sometimes they defecate while pushing, and I'm sorry if that happens." And I wanted to be a supportive husband, and I tried to think of what to say. On that note, what I said probably wasn't the best thing. I just held her hand and looked into her eyes and said, "Oh, honey, I've never seen you poop before." To this day, I get grief about that. I still have not seen her poop, but she didn't, as far as I know, because I didn't see it. So anyway, so I'm giving her the ice chips. We're starting Nora Jones over. It's getting to be 6 o'clock, and then 6 o'clock rolls into 7 o'clock. And I'm glancing around the room. Joan has left at this time because my wife is in a lot of pain. This labor has taken a little more turn for the painful. So they're starting to think about doing an epidural, and Dr. Abar, he's got that doctor thing. He's got that concerned look, and I can tell a concerned look. And he can tell I'm looking around the room, and he looks at me, and he sees that look on my face. So he puts his arm down and says, "So are the twins up right now?" Because I've been watching, we had the baseball game on. My wife wasn't watching it, because this is back when the Twins were a good team. So they're playing the White Sox, they're a rival. So I was like, "No, Chicago's up right now, but I think the Twins still have a shot to come back." And I think my wife grunted out, "Well, thanks for paying attention." So, but eventually it gets to be about 8 o'clock, and Dr. Abar is very concerned because labor seems to have stopped. Not stopped, it's still going, but the baby seems to have stopped. Because it turns out our son Braden was so developed, he got stuck. Literally stuck inside the birth canal, his shoulders. He was a broad-shouldered young lad. Still is, I guess. So they say, well, we got to do a C-section, so we got to get the anesthesiologist in here, we got to do an epidural, we got to do all this, and suddenly what was supposed to be a pretty ordinary birth process is suddenly accelerated into scrub up and get your scrubs on. I'm like, oh, okay. So I do that, and I'm trying to keep my cool, and for the most part, I think I did. Kate's parents aren't here to dispute that, so I'll assume I did. And it gets to be about 9:30 or so, and I finally get ushered into the room, and I've got my scrubs on, and it is free. I didn't know they kept operating rooms so freezing cold, because they've never been operated on, I guess. So I get in there, and it is cold. And I hold her hand, and they get a big tent up, and thank goodness, because I'm not one for watching the Surgery Channel or anything like that. Not something I'm good at. I don't even like horror movies. So, well, I don't really see anything going on until finally at about right before 10 o'clock, there's a little bit of crying going on, and then there's a baby, and it's Braden, and he gets pulled out and held up, and I take some pictures, and I get to hold him, and Dr. Abar takes a picture of us, and then I get to usher him back into the nursery. And this was kind of adorable, actually. My wife was scared to death. It's like, what if they mix up babies and we get the wrong baby? And I'm like, honey, we're in Canby. We're the only people having a baby. It's not going to happen. Another couple did come in, but they were Hispanic. So I think we know by now. So anyway, so I call my mom, and I call my brother, and I call the people who need to know, and I'm holding the baby and Braden, and it just kind of hits me that I should buy him a Slinky. It just kind of hits me, everything that's happened, because a lot of you probably don't know me well. He knows me very well, and she knows me very well. Ben and Julie kind of know me, but I'm not exactly what you'd call somebody you'd expect to leap headfirst into fatherhood. I have a lot of habits. I collect toys, I read comic books, I do things like, yeah, basically you call me a little kid or whatever. But at this time, yeah, so, but believe it or not, I was actually really excited because I always wanted to be a dad, because then finally I'd have somebody to share all this stuff with. But the other reason my story is called Front Seat Confidential, another thing I'm a huge fan of, that wasn't mentioned in my Twitter bio, which they asked me, it's like, what do you want on your bio? I was like, I just put it in my Twitter bio. Which has the thing about pie, and the only reason pie is on there is because they had 3 characters left. Not that I don't like pie, as you can tell. They just had 3 characters left, and I'm like, I'm not wasting them, it's Twitter, that's gold. So one of my favorite things is Charles Schultz's Peanuts cartoons, Charlie Brown and all that. And one of my all-time favorites is a Sunday strip with Peppermint Patty, where she asks Charlie Brown what being a grown-up is like. And Charlie Brown tells a story of that when his dad told him about when you're a kid, you sit in the back seat. And you can play, you can look out the window, you can look where you've been, you can read, you can do anything you want, and you don't really have to worry because you're in the back seat. You know, you're just along for the ride. But when you grow up, you move into the front seat, and you have to worry about where you're going, how fast you're going, is there enough gas, what about the other drivers? And then you have all the worries, plus you have passengers eventually in the back seat, like I suddenly now do. So basically that night, I've been kind of in the front seat because I've obviously been living on my own as a functional adult for a while. But this is officially it. There would be no, you know, keeping one arm in the back seat or occasionally crawling back there to find a drop Yoda or something. But this was it. I was officially going to be in the front seat. And when Charlie Brown at the end of that story said, you know, once you're in the front seat, there's no going back to the back seat. You're in the front seat for the rest of your life. And I was like, all right, I'm ready for this. I'm ready to take the wheel. Let's do this. So, hence Front Seat Confidential. Thank you.